Hello, my beautiful boring people. My name is Victoria Mendes, and I'm going to do the mid-year book freakout tag for this year, which is 2019, if you're coming back to this video from the future. So, to preface this video, I have only been reading books since like May/June-ish, aside from a few audiobooks that I've had, because I just got really burnt out in undergrad from reading, and I finished undergrad in 2016. But in undergrad, I had to read in between 150 to 300 pages per night, and it just broke my love of reading completely. So it took me a long time to get back on the horse, but now I finally am, because I've been having some health issues, but what I have been able to do is switch to making book content, because right now a lot of what I do and am able to do is sit down and read. So here we are. I've read approximately 70 books by now this year in basically a 2-month time period, but that's okay because I love books. It's fine, everything's fine, don't judge me. So, into the tag. Number 1, what is the best book I've read so far this year? Now, this can be any book that I've read. It doesn't have to be necessarily a newly published book, it's just a new to me book. And for me, that is Nevernight by Jay Kristoff, because it's very dry humored, fairly action-packed, very fantasy. I love it. Number 2, what's the best sequel I've read this year? Well, seeing as how Nevernight was the best book I've read, I'm going to say the best sequel that I've read is Godsgrave, because that's the second in the Nevernight Chronicle. And yeah, I really like Jay Kristoff's writing. I'm really excited to read Aurora Rising at some point. I just bought it because it was on sale, and that's another book that Jay Kristoff has co-written, and I'm super excited to check it out, because if it's anything like the Nevernight series, I'm gonna love it. So number 3 is a new release I want to get to, which I've already mentioned. I'm looking forward to Aurora Rising. And then I'm also looking forward to Lock Every Door by Riley Sager, which I saw a lot of discussions on so far, and I'm just super excited to check that out. Also, if you're wondering why I keep looking down, it's because I have my list of stuff on my phone, and yeah, that's why. And then another book I'm looking forward to that's a new release this year is Gods of Jade and Shadow by Silvia Moreno Garcia, because, I mean, I'll put the photos of the book covers up here, but it just sounded like a really interesting read. Number 4 is most anticipated releases coming out soon. Those for me would predominantly be September 3rd and September 3rd for Victoria Schwab's next book. After A City of Ghosts, we have Tunnel of Bones coming out, and then I'm also really looking forward to the 3rd book in the Nevernight Chronicle called Dark Dawn. And then a 3rd book that I'm looking forward to the release of is James Islington's The Light of All That Falls, which is the 3rd book in that series, and I am really looking forward to it. It's another fantasy series. In case you can't tell, I read a lot of fantasy because sometimes I just need to escape the world. Number 5 is the biggest disappointment that I've had with reading so far this year, and I'm going to have to give that to The Christmas Cake Murder by Joanna Fluke, or is it Joanne Fluke? Anyways, I was recommended these books because, as you can see, I love cookbooks, I love cooking, and as a kid I read a lot of the Nancy Drew series. In fact, I think I've read all of them. So I enjoy mysteries, murder, thriller, and then I've heard that Joanne Fluke's series is supposed to be like a mix in between cookbooks and murder mystery. And The Christmas Cake Murder, oh boy, was that not a good book. I DNF'd it about 30 to 33% of the way through it, because it was just, It was very poorly written. It was mostly written in third person, which I don't personally care for, but the thing that really got me was that she was just repeating the same story 3 times. Every time she met a new character in the book, the main character would be like, oh, I'm doing this thing because XYZ, that was already given to me, the reader, 3 chapters ago, 3 times, because every chapter that we've come across, we're reintroducing the same story. And I couldn't do it. It was too repetitive. No! From reading the reviews on Goodreads, it sounds like later on into that series, which I think the Christmas Cake Murder is like number 30 something, the series just really starts to fall apart and is not great. And the same people who are marking it lower had the same issues that I had with it. So right now I'm also reading the Chocolate Chip Cookie Murder or something close to that. I'll put that here. And it is much better so far, but I'm still not sure that it's quite my cup of tea. I'm giving it a chance though. Number 6 is my biggest surprise of what I've read. I was actually really surprised that I liked How to Be Yourself by Ellen Hendrickson, because it's a self-help book and it's more of a psychological self-help, and a lot of the psychological self-help books that I've read have, I don't know, I took a lot of psychology and sociology in college, so I get the basics, and a lot of the self-help books are written at a really basic level, and I'm just over that because I already did that. I studied it at a collegiate level. I don't need more of that in my life. I prefer books to talk to me more like I'm a human being, not like I'm something that's just like needs fixed and is awkward and I'm a case study. But also I enjoy reading case studies more than I enjoy reading self-help books a lot of the time, because it's more analytical and not whatever the majority of self-help books tend to be. But this one in particular, it was really nice. It wasn't super low level, introducing everything for the first time. It talked like you were talking to a normal person, and it's a book can't talk, you know what I mean. And it helped point out a lot of things that I was struggling with in a non-demeaning way. I feel like a lot of the self-help books that I've read before have been like, oh, it's so awful, yeah. Whereas this one's more like, hey, you have this thing going on, it's okay, here's some things you can do to combat it, and here's how you can tell if that's the thing that you have going on. And it's not quite clinical, and it's not dumbed down either. So it's easy to understand, but also it's not talking at, again, with me and the talking, it's not diminutive. I don't, how do I say this well? It's not talking to you like you're a 5-year-old being like, okay, do better. It's very realistic, and I appreciated that so much. In fact, I did a lot of highlighting, and eventually I may want to do a video on that book. It's just, I'm a little scared to do it because it just seems really intense to me, so I'm just putting that off for now. Number 7 is my favorite new author, and again, this isn't a newly published author, this is a new to me author, and both of which are Victoria Schwab or V.E. Schwab, depending on which series of hers you're reading. They're both written by her, it's just 2 different names that she publishes books with. And then the second one would be Jay Kristoff, because, I mean, you already heard the previous questions. I really love his work so far of what I've read, and I look forward to more. Number 8 is my newest favorite character. I am going to have to go with Henry Ditton from We Are the Ants. I think that's just because I related to that character so much, where he's having like this existential crisis of, why are we here? Why bother? Why continue the way we are? And I can't go much more into that because the book covers that, but really enjoyed We Are the Ants, really related to Henry Denton, so there you go. Number 9, a book that made me cry. This one's kind of a hard one because I haven't had a really great book that has just made me bawl my eyes out for forever. I don't get a whole lot of that reading the fantasy that I've read so far, because that's predominantly what I stick to, but I think I did maybe sniffle a couple of times for the characters in A Closed and Common Orbit by Becky Chambers, which is the 3rd book in the Wayfarers series. Thoroughly enjoy that series, by the way. Highly recommend it, but it's just a couple of characters there have a really depressing background story. Very interesting to hear about, but I was just kind of like, oh man, it sucks to grow up like that. Number 10 is a book that made me laugh. Well, we're making our rounds back to Jay Kristoff's Nevernight Chronicle series, because, oh my god, my favorite character out of all of them is, of course, the Not Cat, Mr. Kindly, and all of his quips just make me giggle so much. I have dry humor. He is very dry-humored. Of course, I like the Not Cat and his sayings. Number 11 is the most beautiful book I have read or received. Well, the only one that I have read and or received this year that is okay, you can just fall over, added to my collection, is Aurora Rising. I already talked about this in the last video. It's very shiny. It makes me happy. Also, I guess this and City of Ghosts would be the only 2 books that I have bought so far this year, other than some others that I have on pre-order, because I check out most of my books from the library, and then if I really like them and give them 4 to 5 stars and I know I will want to reread them again, then I buy them. This one, I didn't follow that rule on, but also it was on really good sale, and it was by, like, I liked the blurb about it. I know I like Jay Kristoff. I'm gonna give it a chance and hope that I made a good decision by buying it. Okay, everything's just falling. Also in September, I do plan on rereading City of Ghosts, because I know I already read it last month, and it won't be that long in between now and then, but also it's a middle grade read. It's pretty short. I can finish it in a few hours, and I just want a refresher right before I read the sequel. Okay, number 12 is, what books do you need to read by the end of the year? And I'm going to exclude any of the previous books that I've talked about, because I've already gushed about those so much. I would really like to get to The Poppy War by R.F. Kuang, because it sounds really interesting. The cover looks really cool and minimal. I don't know. I just wanted to try something different. The sequel to that book is also coming out soon, so I want to give it a chance and see what it's like. And then another book that I would like to get to is The Dark Forest by Liu Cixin, or you know what? I'm just gonna put the name here. It's in Chinese. Hopefully I didn't butcher it and make it into a bad word. Anyways, The Dark Forest is the sequel to The Three-Body Problem, and I didn't really enjoy The Three-Body Problem just because I don't have a whole lot of knowledge on the history of China and the time period that it's set in and the way the book's written. You have to know the goings-on of China in between the 60s and the 90s of the 1900s, so 1960 to 1990, because it was the Cultural Revolution, and if you don't have knowledge of that, the book isn't written out to where you would just understand that. It's not part of its own book lore. It relies on you having that knowledge, that cultural knowledge, to really understand the full breadth of the Three-Body Problem. But from reading the reviews on Goodreads, the next books in the series are much better than the establishing book, so I'm going to give it another chance because I've heard really good things about this, and I'm really interested to read books written in a completely different language that has been translated and just comes from a different culture, and maybe it'll have different cultural views for sci-fi, and I'm just really looking forward to that because it's supposed to be a really well-renowned book in China, and I want to be part of that. It sounds cool. I want to like it. So hopefully the next books will be much better. So that's all I have for my mid-year book freakout tag. I did this because Starla Reeds did it and it looked like a lot of fun, and she was like, you should make a video and post it and let me know what you made because I want to see all about it. And you know what? I want to participate in it and I want to see what you do too. So I'm going to leave a bunch of links down in the description of who all originated this tag and the questions and stuff like that. Basically, I'm going to copy and paste her description section. And then if you do this tag, let me know in the comments below and I will be happy to watch them. So thanks so much for joining me, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!